feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Chase for the Pennant is back on. That's right. We are back in, all in on this Philadelphia Phillies team. We are Chasing the Pennant podcast. I am hosting this one today. I am Shane, and I am joined with 4 of our co-hosts because it's a Sunday show, so we like to overload you with humans. So first I have Borek over there, who made us restart this recording. How are you, sir?
Good, since the Phillies got a series sweep. Now we just need the Flyers to carry that momentum into the evening.
For sure. A sweep, which is just weird to say for a Philadelphia Phillies team. Got to be honest. Pretty strange. Then I got Biscuit down below him. Biscuit, how are you, sir? Sporting the Fuck the Mets banner today. Love it.
And while we're on that subject, I knew the Phillies were going to sweep the Mets this series. I knew it was coming. I felt it. When you lose 3 straight games to the Baltimore fucking Orioles, what can be more Philly than coming back and having a great series? And, you know, I was saying this earlier. They played so good against the Mets last year. It's really nice to see that carrying over because there's no better team to stick it to, in my opinion. So I'm good. I'm happy.
That's good. This should be the most cheerful episode that you guys get from us for, honestly, might be for a little bit because who the hell knows with this team. Then I got Andrew up in the top corner. Andrew, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well. That's what I was going to say. Very excited to finally talk about a positive episode rather than the couple negative ones that we released this week. So it feels good to have that. Obviously, as Borek mentioned, Flyers, but I'm really excited for Sixers tomorrow night too. I'm just happy the playoffs all around are starting up again.
This is a wild time for sports. I'm honestly really digging it. You know, to get some playoffs back, training camp ish, right around the corner, kind of. And then baseball in full swing. So this is good. So long as no one else screws it up. We got another positive test that happened a couple days ago. Let's just hold our breath that it's just one series. But we'll see. We'll see how much baseball screws it up for the rest of the world.
And
then I got Sean. What's up?
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I love the March Madness effect of it too. Like all the games are starting in the afternoon and they're just carrying over to the night. So just something awesome to watch too while at work.
24/7. It's fantastic. Then I got Sean, who has to be grateful to everyone on Twitter for giving him all of the information on these games. So the At-Bat app and all of your personalities have fueled Sean and all of the information he has today. So Sean, how are you?
I'm doing as good as I can be. Philly's finally pulling off a couple wins in a row. My boss, I don't think she hates me, but she loves to schedule me during Phillies games, and I haven't watched a single Flyers game since they started the actual playoffs. But you know what? I'm just glad they're winning. I'm glad, we're getting some good news. I'm checking my iWatch and getting all the updates as we go, and I'm seeing all the group chats blow up, and I'm happy that people think to text me during these games and get happy about, whatever's going on. So the inning that I watched this weekend, they looked great, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Good. So here's the thing with Sean. Sean is Sean's named the podcast, essentially. He was one of our most just here and present members, and all of a sudden he was like, shit, I got to kind of make money. And now he has to work, and he's kind of our wild card every show. So once again, thank you everyone on Twitter and everyone who group messages him, including the rest of you guys on CTP, for keeping him informed and decent enough to come up on in here and talk some Phillies baseball. So we did sweep the Mets. So we're all, as I mentioned, 100% back in. Never had a bad day in our lives. We're all in on this Philadelphia Phillies team. So let's take it back to the opener against the Mets, a game that was shaky, to say the least. So we get Spencer Howard 3 days ago. So before we get fully into the Spencer Howard experience right now, I kind of want to get some early opinions on what you felt like he looked like. And then I'll give you kind of what I've been seeing from him, both in previous years in the system and then what I watched the other night. So I'm going to start with Andrew on this. Andrew, what were you kind of seeing out of Spencer Howard here?
His first start, it kind of looked like he kind of settled in a little late after kind of getting the first couple nerves out of the way. Friday night, same thing. He struggled early. I don't know how much that blister affected him. I know he said it wasn't serious after the game, but I mean we've heard that from I don't know how many pitchers in our lifetime that it's not serious. Then we see an IL stint. So I'm not gonna hit the panic mode yet, but he hasn't looked as sharp as I think we would have liked him to. Obviously the curveball's been there, but it just seems like he always hits a rough spot in games so far, and it seems like. And this is what I'd expect out of a young guy like that. But it seems like, obviously, with the hitters being there before, they're adjusting to him throughout the game while he's not making the adjustments that he needs to make to continue to get them out. And I think that's his biggest thing right now is that he have to switch. I'd like to see him kind of make adjustments through games. I just think hitters are figuring him out throughout the game, and he's kind of just keeps the same rhythm and the same kind of pitch sequence, and you don't see him kind of mix it up like that as much as you would. But like.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I was seeing in each of these first two starts for him. Borek, you got anything different on Spencer Howard that you were kind of seeing?
Nah, I just saw young pitcher jitters, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, you don't mix up your pitches as much as you would in the lower levels and challenge people as much because you know this is the next level. And when he did, and he missed a couple spots, he did get home runs hit against him. So that would also probably then give you more jitters as a youngster to pitch around the strike zone a little bit. So I think it's just a guy, he's probably going to take 4 or 5 collective starts or something, and then you'll see him get more confidence as time goes on. That's what I mostly saw. I think it's just jitters a little bit to start his career.
Yeah, he honestly, it's weird because if you watched him, he didn't exactly look like a guy who was overly nervous. He didn't look too fidgety on the mound out there like a lot of young guys do, going back to their rosin bags a lot, cleaning their cleats, walking around the mound a bit, stepping off, having to get new signs. He looked okay, at least mentally. But then you kind of take a look back at, and I don't know if any of you guys got the opportunity to see him pitch in the minors live, but it was a fucking treat going out there and having the opportunity to watch him last year, especially. The ball, you hear a lot of times, a ball exploding out of someone's hand. Not really what it was like with Spencer Howard. It was almost like a blink and it's 98 miles an hour. And it doesn't feel that way because he looks so smooth. It doesn't look like he works that hard to get the ball in like that. Which honestly should, I know he's had injury problems, in the past and hasn't thrown a ton of innings in his college or major league career or professional career, I should say. But it should lend itself to a very sustainable arm path for little injuries, knock on wood. But the one thing that I noticed was the same two things that you guys had kind of mentioned. There's a distrust for some of those pitches so far. And it doesn't matter how good or how elite that fastball can be. And it can be. It's a very heavy fastball. It ordinarily doesn't draw a lot of solid barrel contact. But when you don't have something to mix off it, it's a very hittable pitch. And for him, he caught a lot of plate in each of these first 2 starts, and major league hitters just don't miss that. So in a way, I think it's a really good learning experience for a young guy to sit there and realize that your stuff isn't just good enough on its own. You got to learn how to pitch. You got to learn how to trust each of those pitches and throw them, at any point in the count. And I do think he'll get there because we've seen it in the minors. I think it's just the trust thing, and it seemed like he was trying to rely a lot on just the 2 pitches, on just the curveball and then just the fastball, whichever one he was feeling more that inning. I don't know about the highlights that you guys saw down at the bottom here with Biscuit or Sean, but were you guys impressed at all with what you saw out of Spencer Howard in either of those first 2 starts?
Yeah, look, he's going to be really good. I really have faith that he's going to come around, and, I think with Alec Boehm and Spencer Howard both kind of coming up within like a week to 2 week time frame of each other, one of these guys was going to get off to a kind of slower start, in my opinion. I don't think the Phillies have that much luck in him to have both coming up and kind of setting the world on fire. But I thought there was going to be both of these guys are going to contribute, but one of them was going to get off to a slower start. I think that's going to be Howard. You kind of want to see more of what he has to offer. As you guys mentioned, he was kind of curveball, fastball heavy. I also want to see him kind of, and this was brought up a few times, he doesn't look like that he can go that deep into games. he seems like a guy who's kind of cooked after the 4th or 5th inning right now, and obviously that's going to change the more he pitches in the big leagues. But right now, I think that might be one of my early concerns, is just that, if he's, good or dominant through 3-4 innings, but he can't get through the 5th or into the 6th, that's
You don't
leaving.
trust the bullpen?
Yeah, no, I don't, Shane.
I was just curious. I didn't know why you would.
Well, after a pretty good series against the Mets, the bullpen threw a few good innings. Could be us turning the page.
No, I really don't think so. But I appreciate the optimism.
Going off what Biscuit said there, I did get to watch Howard's first start, and he looked okay. He was never going to win NL Rookie of the Year with Bohm coming up anyway. So, going off what you said, if I had to take a stab at one of these two guys struggling to start the year, it would definitely be the pitcher, because, have we ever had luck with pitchers other than, Nola or Hamels? When is one of them going to pan out? So,
no.
Yeah,
Never.
exactly.
I just wanted to weigh in. Literally none.
But no, he did look good. I noticed he was hitting his spots. He missed a couple spots his first start. Like I said, I didn't get to watch his second start, but he's going to calm down. He's going to normalize himself. He's got to get used to JT more. Everything's going to fall into place with Spencer Howard. I just think it's, like you said, the first few games he's going to have jitters, and once he gets past that, he's going to be a solid 2 or 3 for this rotation, if not more.
Yeah, man, I agree. So again, it's exciting, the fact that we have a prospect like a Spencer Howard who's coming up and whose position is a pitcher, because it's in the history of this organization. You can count on one hand the amount of pitchers that we have drafted and developed into actual 1s and 2s. And Spencer Howard is a guy that has that potential. And you can see that despite some of the early concerns to 2 starts. But let's stick on the prospect thing before we get fully into the series right now. You guys had mentioned Alec Bohm coming up. Hand in the air, swear to God. When we drafted him, I threw everything in the house. I was so pissed off. I thought it was very Phillies to sit here and draft a guy at third base who 29 other organizations said would absolutely never stick there. And at the time, we didn't know about the potential of a DH. Sorry, I was trying to think of the letters. So I was out. And then I saw him play once, and I was all in, because that's how we are in Philadelphia. So I was super excited for him to come up. He hasn't been overly flashy or sexy, at least at this point. He made a great over-the-shoulder play in foul territory where Bruce, had he slid half a second later, I think they both would have died. But that was a really nice play. And then I think he's had at least 1 hit in each of the 3 games that he's been up at this point. And a couple of RBIs. Today's swing going the other way was a big one at that point in the game. So early thoughts on Alec Bohm, both offensively and defensively. And then Biscuit, I'm going to start with you.
I'm in love, Shane. You know what? He's had a few good knocks, had a few good base hits. It was kind of so-and-so the last couple of days. He's been looking okay. Not the best at 30. Obviously made that play today where he threw the ball away. But
it was
you know what? For him to come up with that big hit today and really kickstart the momentum in that game, that was awesome. That was awesome. And like I said, I think for his first couple games in the majors, it's been fun to watch him. I'm just very excited, and I really like what I've seen. As I mentioned before, both of these guys I said were going to come up and produce, in Spencer Howard and Alec Bohm, but one of them was going to get off to the slow start, and it's just refreshing to see Bohm come up. It looks like he stays within himself. It looks like he's not, it's not like a too big for the moment type of situation with him. He stays within himself. He doesn't get lost in the at-bat. I thought he's looked really good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Borek, what do you got?
I was just going to say, to go off of, I think I heard you say about the throw. It was pouring at that time when he made that.
I'm just looking for excuses for a
No.
do.
Because that's what I thought immediately when he overthrew it, because I knew everyone was going to tweet about his terrible defense. And I was like, Well, if there's one time you could probably say a ball's going to slip out of someone's hand
on a charged bare hand from a third baseman.
Bare hand on a pouring rain play, yeah. So that play, I mean, he's looked good some plays. Jake even excused him on the one play that he thought he could have made in his start. And when Jake Arrieta says that's a tough play, Andrew brought that up on our podcast. It's a freaking tough play. He's Jake Arrieta. He doesn't bullshit anybody. So when he
Except
said
for himself.
Yeah.
He's a pitcher.
but other than that, so I mean, I think he's looked fairly good. He's had pretty professional at bats. To me, he ripped that double. He seems like he's taking exactly what Biscuit said, taking what's given at the plate, and then he's adjusting in the field. I mean, simulated games aren't regular games. It's going to take you a bit when we know your batch to the level of the major leagues, and that's your moneymaker, to adjust from playing simulated games to playing at the level you have to play at third base in the majors. I think that's all it is. And he's made some nice plays, and then he made a couple plays he missed, but that's what to be expected, unless if you're Nolan Arenado coming up as a kid. So
really love Arenado. There we go. Andrew, so watching an Alec Bohm play, and I don't know if you're getting this impression. One thing that was concerning to me a year and a half ago with him was that, as big as he was, his swing didn't exactly look like it was conducive for power, raw power. It looked like obviously he's a big and strong enough kid to run into some, but he doesn't have a traditional power hitter swing. And I think we've seen that through the early parts here in his first handful of games up at the major leagues. His swing looks very contact heavy to me, and it doesn't look like it has a lot of lift and launch, which I'm cool with. But how much do you think that this Phillies organization, who is desperate for more power bats, is okay with him before they start tinkering with that?
I'd say you gotta let it. I mean, if you really with the high hopes we have in him, I would say you have to give it a while, because he can be that contact player, and if that's the way he's gonna be, I would have hoped they would have expected it, because, I mean, if you were seeing that when he was playing in the minors, hopefully they were able to see it. I know that's a lot of trust in this organization to see that, but that's why I think you don't want to change his swing, because if he pans out that way and you play free agency smart and you find power hitters, he could be that real two-hole hitter, I feel like, that Hoskins is right now, because if he's going to be that contact guy, then you can get a true power hitter down in the 4 or 5 spot. I'd be fine with that. I'm okay with him being that contact guy. And obviously he's not producing the power, but say Hoskins was hitting the home runs and the power he had when he first came up and he was down in that 4 or 5 spot and you could move Bohm there in that 2, I think we would have no issue with it already. So I think rather than the Phillies try to wait and see when they want to kind of try to make him more of a power hitter, I'd rather see them go out and find a power hitter in free agency or something like that and let him continue to be the guy he can be, because if he's going to hit like he is right now and use the whole field, and I think that's what's the most encouraging thing is he's already using the whole field to his advantage, and that's why I don't want to mess with his swing, because when he's already got that confidence to use it with only playing 3 or 4 games, I mean, don't switch that up. Let him use that power. So I'd say go out and get someone free agency wise if Hoskins can't get that power back rather than change his swing up.
So I got a good name for free agency in terms of power bats. Currently hitting 8 home runs, top 3 in the league in home runs with 18 less at bats than the guys ahead of him. It's no big deal or anything, but he's the guy who's currently manning your pitching staff. JT fucking Realmuto. So sign him. Sign JT. That's your power bat. That's your middle of the order guy.
Hey, Shane, we found you a new job. You just got to start working for the Phillies. Just get in there.
I don't want to work for
advisor.
I'll piss everybody off. It's easy to just talk here, but if I go into an organization, that ain't working. So the difficult thing I find with Alec Bohm, a guy who I really do believe in this new era of baseball, more so than ever, if you're going to play third base, if you're going to play first base, or if you're going to be a DH, you got to have natural power. Like, you can't just be a 300 hitter, which I do think he can be a 300 hitter. And I do think he'll get on base at a decent clip, but nothing about that screams, the traditional production of those 3 spots. So at a certain point, I do hope that there is some kind of tinkering. What do you got there, Sean?
I would have to disagree, only because a guy like Anthony Rendon, who is almost the exact type of player that we think Bohm can be, is doing it and showing how good he can be and how much money he can make while doing exactly what we project Bohm to do. He has, a decent amount of power, but he's not meant for his power. He's up there just trying to get hits, just trying to pull the ball in the gap. He's got almost the same exact swing almost as Bohm. It everything goes naturally, and you saw the kind of contract he got with the Angels. So I wouldn't necessarily say that maybe in today's game, those three positions are meant for power, but I wouldn't necessarily say, you could use a hitter like Rendon at any spot in the lineup or any position.
But he's not Anthony Rendon, at least not yet. And Anthony Rendon brings things that he doesn't. Like, he is a much better fielder than what Alec Bohm is. So there's reasons beyond each of those things. And I'm not knocking Alec Bohm. Obviously, I'm all on board. I'm here for him. And I do expect good things. One thing I think that I struggle with at this point is who's your favorite DH? Anyone can answer. Who's your favorite DH in history? Or like your most recognizable DHs in history?
David Ortiz.
Yeah, middle of the lineup fucking bats who are just told to eat whatever you want to eat, show up to the ballpark and fucking rake. Put balls in the seats. That's it. The Phillies, DH Roman Quinn. Like, I think we're misusing the pieces that we have, and I worry that we're going to find a misuse in Bohm as well if there isn't eventually some sort of advancement to his game to unlock additional power there. It's the same conversation we had with another former or current decently rated prospect in the Philly system, and Mickey Moniak. Guy has really good hands, but really doesn't have the natural power to go beyond an average hitter. So it's something they're tinkering with, and I hope that again, as big as Bohm is, I hope he found it last year. He found a stroke where I think he hit 17 or 18 home runs in the second half of the season. So it's there. I just don't see it right now. And it might just be an oversimplification at the major league level. These pitchers are obviously significantly better than what you're going to get elsewhere. But it's exciting. These are essentially the last two prospects you're going to see come up for the next, 14 years in the Phillies system who are going to make a fucking impact in this organization. That's it. So enjoy them. So beyond the prospects, let's go to this awesome Mets series, which made us all fans of the Philadelphia Phillies again, mercifully. So obviously we have Spencer Howard up, but I feel like the key to the success of this Philadelphia Phillies team is to just pitch Nolan Wheeler every day, make him go 7 innings every single day. What a treat it's been, man. Aaron Nola. I don't know if any of you guys have the stats up. Andrew, you had sent them to us in the group chat. But over Aaron Nola's last 3 starts, 20, 21 innings pitched, whatever it is, 30 strikeouts. I think only 2 walks. He's been Cy Young Nola again since that first start. Really, really special stuff so far from the starting pitching of this staff. What's up?
I was going to say another part that went with that stat that they put up on the broadcast today, which was ridiculous. He's basically the first Philly to ever do this, because it was the first Philly since the current mound distance in 1893 to allow 3 or fewer hits and strike out 8 or more batters in 3 straight starts. So they put in even a third or exception to that ridiculous stat that they had yesterday. Yeah, it's a pretty good stat to have. Over 100
We're back,
years,
baby.
Yeah.
We're back. Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola's back. Starting rotation as a whole, honestly, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty impressive. Obviously, Aaron Nola has been phenomenal. Zach Wheeler has been inducing ground balls at a clip that we're not really accustomed to here. And the fact that we have at least moderately average fielding, which we have not had in, honestly, since the last core, that actually works now. So it's been a real treat watching the top 2 there. Eflin is a guy who, and we'll get to him in a little bit for the next series, but he's been a guy he's been good. He's been everything that you could want out of a 4th or a 5th starter as he kind of eases back into the ability to, throw more than 80 pitches or so a night. Sorry, Borek, I thought you were putting your hand up again. I didn't realize you're just itching your eye. Doing this by video again, by the way. It's very, very different for us all. But we talked about Spencer Howard a little bit, and then Jake Arrieta, who essentially this year has really only had 1 inning that wasn't bad. I don't know. I've loved what I've seen from Arrieta out of this point. If you take a look at what he's given us in the first 2 years of his contract, Sean, what have you kind of seen out of Arrieta so far in the last 3 starts?
I live tweeted his last start, and I distinctly remember going into the 5th inning, I tweeted about how efficient and impressive he was, and
you caused
that
the
inning blew up in my face. I did. I basically caused the Orioles to sweep the Phillies. I think that was entirely my fault. But
we may not even talk about that today. I don't even know.
Arrieta just looked good. He looks like he's finally 100% healthy. And I know we all said like how many times he's going to blame his injuries or his teammates for his struggles when he's the one giving up 105 mile an hour singles up the middle, and he blames his second baseman for not diving, little stuff like that. But he finally looks like the guy that we paid for, the guy that we're giving $25 million a year to. And honestly, I was off board on him this offseason coming in. I was kind of just hoping they would find a way to cut him. You can't cut $25 million and a 4 or 5 starter. But he's looked like a solid 3. And like you said, other than one inning, he has really impressed. His two-seamer's been moving. All of his pitches have a lot of movement. And it almost this is the closest he looks since, I'm going to say, the Cubs, won in 2016. And, I mean, I'm glad to have it back. If we have even, as consistent as he was in that 3rd game where he kind of gave up a couple runs, like if he plays like a 3rd or 4th starter, which is all he needs to be
6
for this
innings,
team,
3 runs or less.
There you go. That's all you need from a 3rd or 4th starter. And so far, other than one start, he's been exactly that.
Yeah, honestly, really only other than the 1 inning. Where things kind of got away from him. Thanks for that, Sean. That's what you get from my Twitter account at ANYP Phillies, by the way, on Twitter. Shameless plugging in the middle of the pod. But yeah, like I said, very, very encouraged. And I think we've all kind of said it at certain points throughout the pod since we've changed names over here. There is something that always warrants some intrigue about a Jake Arrieta. He's frustrating as hell. He's an unlikable human, but he does or is capable of putting together stretches where he looks not like his old self, but like a competent 3 or 4, like Sean was saying. Like I said, at this point, 7-inning doubleheaders every night. Phillies will never lose again, theoretically, anyway, because every starter will go 6 or 7 innings. But let's take it back to game 1 of this Mets series. I think I'm going to make the executive decision at 26 minutes in that we're just not going to talk about the Orioles series. It was dog shit. We don't have to identify as Philly fans for those days. That was a fucking nightmare. Everything that could have went wrong did go wrong. Everything that you expect the organization to have addressed has consistently been not addressed. So since they won't address it, fucking neither will we. We're going to move on to bigger and better times where we sweep the Mets. So game 1, we head into the 9th inning with a 5-4 lead. Put Neris on the mound, who has not looked super sharp yet this year. But you put Neris on the mound. At this point, we've sat here, and I feel like every time we say, let's just get Adam Morgan on the mound. That's all we need. Don't stop putting up Guerra. Let's stop putting up whomever. Let's put Adam Morgan. Puts Morgan in, gets lit up. Maybe not Morgan. Let's go to Tommy Hunter. Same fucking thing. Insert pitcher's name here. 100% they fail. And that's what happened. So Hector Neris again, and here we are. It ends up being a 5-5 game in that 9th inning. And you sit there and you think, holy shit, here we go again. We're going to lose another baseball game. Andrew, what were you kind of feeling as we went into that 9th inning there and you watched Hector Neris give up that tying run in the 9th?
I was watching that game and it was like, well, it's kind of at this point it's just expected they're going to give up the lead. Like, I think Neris has now blown 2 saves and 3 opportunities, maybe 4 opportunities.
4. Yep.
And so it's just at this point it's almost like it's a contagious thing. Like no reliever can come in here and just get a scoreless inning. And it looked like I was just like, here we go again. And at this point, it's like so bad. It's hard to get mad at this point just because it's so often. It's just like you expect it. It's like, all right, well, starters are out. You figure 4 more runs are going to score by the end of this game, and hopefully the offense can keep up with it. Luckily enough, the offense has been resilient, and it seems like they have an answer for pretty much anything right now. It seems like they're all starting to click, and there it was Friday night. Harper answered it right away after Quinn got on, and I still don't know how Quinn got around that tag because it looked like he was
terrible
out
tag.
by a mile, but
yeah.
Luckily enough
out
for
by
us,
4.5 steps.
Luckily for us, Quinn gets safe and they win the game, and Naris gets away with it blowing that save. But as frustrating it is, it was just like expected at this point. And it's sad and kind of embarrassing.
Kind of. It's horrendously
That's fair.
embarrassing. Borek, what do you got on it?
I was going to say, as like I said, I will find something positive. Luckily, we got a sweep, and I have a lot of positives to be my positive self about again.
There you
But
go.
in that game, we had Alvarez pitch an inning, Parker pitch an inning, Morgan pitch an inning, and Hunter pitch an inning in 2/3. Nearest is the only guy that sucked. So at least from the positive side of things, we had a bunch of good bullpen innings in that game, and guys that we wanted in Morgan and Hunter actually looked good in that first game. So, and Blake Parker has looked all of a sudden like a decent relief pitcher since we've called him back up. Hopefully the twitching and pitching stays
God damn,
and
man.
stays in his groove.
The sweat.
Yeah.
The sweat. That man was a monsoon. Like,
Hey, if it works, it works. I don't care how much you sweat. Just get it done for me.
That's fair. That is fair. How difficult, Biscuit, how difficult do you think it is on these relievers? It's 2020, and while there are no fans in the stands to sit there and tell you just how much you're a horrendous pitcher and you have failed at every opportunity that you go out there, and as is everyone else that you share a bullpen with, the internet still exists. You still got to go out in public at times. People are still not going to say great things to you. This is Philadelphia. How much pressure do you think it is on these pitchers mentally to sit here and deal with it, to go in and night out and watch either yourself or any one of your teammates in that pen give up another lead and just or fail to keep you within arm's distance of anything?
I think every single member of the bullpen is feeling the pressure right now,
Yeah.
and no one's job is really safe at this point. Look, you're already seeing changes happen. People are voicing their displeasures about how pitiful the bullpen has been. These guys must be,
Historically bad.
yes, they must be feeling the pressure when you have, the entire fan base, and yes, fans aren't in the stadiums, but for every reason that you mentioned, fans are still connected to this game, and people aren't stupid. Like, relievers know what's being said. Like, every player knows what's being said about them any given night. But now at this point, I think they really need to kind of just like get it going, because at this point, like, you don't want to keep being the bad guy here. You already have people that you're angering on your team. You're angering the fans. You're angering everyone really within the organization from top to bottom. Now's the time to really, get down with it and get going. I believe it was you, Borek. You mentioned the slew of relievers that came into to pitch it after Spencer Howard was taken out of game one. And it really looked like, if we need to throw 3-4 guys out of the pen in one night, like that they could put up some competent innings. And I think that was a really good encouragement. And, this bullpen has been historically bad. You got to think it's got to level out for some of these guys at some point. I'm not saying everyone's going to be a 10 out of 10, but you have to expect at least, 3 or 4 of these relievers to really come around and settle into their own, because we can come back from 5-9 and be back at 8-9 right now and feel good about it. But, give it another 5 games when we're another 3-4 games under 500 and the bullpen blows another couple leads, like, we're going to feel the same exact way. So it's go time now.
It is. It absolutely is. And you use the term leveling out, and the same can be said on both sides of the ball for the Phillies. And I think it was Sean that brought it up on the last show that I was not on. On both sides, Biscuit, you're sitting there saying that this has to level out for the pitching. There's no way that an entire bullpen collective ERA can be in the double digits a quarter of the way through a season, even a 60-game one. That's impossible to sustain. It's ridiculous. And then the offense, who has been hitting the crap out of the baseball at a lot of times. They're walking at a high clip, striking out at a lesser clip. They have one of the best OPSs in baseball, which is a really good measurable stat in terms of the overall success of an offense. Those things haven't always translated to runs for our offense, and they most certainly have translated to runs for the bullpen. This leveling out, how confident are you, Sean, on each of those parties that the leveling out will work out in the Phillies' favor? Like, do you see an end to this bullpen kind of putting it together, and you see the Phillies offense starting to really put some things together and learn how to succeed with runners in scoring position?
Oh, absolutely. I said it on the last podcast. Like you said, it's a law of averages. There's no way that they can sustain, like you said, a double-digit ERA going into even the half point of the season. That there's no way. The pen, it's already dropped after this weekend. I mean, you had 2 relievers gave up runs in 2 innings, and that's it. 4 runs in however many innings. I mean, they looked great the first game of the series, and they're already starting to pick up what they have looked like the first couple series of the season. They already kind of look like a major league bullpen again. And I don't know if that's because they got rid of Austin Davis and Cole Irvin, but whatever helps. Getting those guys out of here might have been the kickstart. Maybe Austin Davis was a completely toxic guy in the bullpen. Who knows? He might be a complete asshole. I don't know. But maybe getting him out of the bullpen was the key. Or maybe they just found out what they needed to do, how they have been pitching. Maybe Brian Price made some adjustments where he's gotten the opportunity to. And maybe it was just the Mets being the horrible team that they are. And as far as the offense goes, I think it's the same thing. I think the guys that are hot in Bryce and JT, I think they will eventually cool off and come down to human level statistics. But at the same time, I think Kingery and Kutch start to hit the ball again. And I mean, we saw Kutch come out of his slump a little bit today. Kingery got a hit, so who knows? Maybe they'll start to pick it up, and maybe they'll pick up what Bryce and JT kind of come down to.
Yeah, I think in terms of the offense, I have more confidence because this is something we believed in from the start. This team was essentially built to beat you in games 10-9. They weren't exactly built to beat you 4-2. The starting rotation was a bit of a question mark. The bullpen was a known issue, and then the offense was something that we felt pretty good about. And to this point, there are positive underlying things with this offense that just haven't necessarily translated fully to everything that's kind of gone on. So as Andrew mentioned in game 1 there, we win it on a hard hit ball by Harper that he had said that he felt like he hit it too hard, which is always weird to hear a baseball player say. And then Roman Quinn, thanks to a horrifically awful attempt at a tag by Wilson Ramos down there, is able to kind of sneak in there. So good for Roman Quinn. One last highlight before his 85th IL stint. So good for him. You can rewatch that one over and over again. What's up, Andrew?
I don't know if you guys saw this, but speaking about his IL stint, they just came out after the game. All broadcasts, they talked about it being his hand on the slide. It actually is not. He actually was scratched before the game because of COVID symptoms.
I swear to fuck, man.
They just released that.
This is a positive podcast today. We only get one a year.
That was so. T-Mac kind of brought that up early. It was very vague, but he said had symptoms, and that was literally all T-Mac said throughout the broadcast. Joe, I saw a little bit of the presser at the end with Joe Girardi, and he said, he did the right thing. Quinn didn't report. He called in and said, here's what's going on. I think they said he did like some preliminary testing and all tests came back negative, but I don't know what preliminary testing means, and it sounds kind of...
He's pissing blood. It's spelling out COVID in his urine. It's ridiculous.
That's the morning test. I think they're making you do tests at your home before you even come to the ballpark, and then you get tested at the ballpark. So that would just be the at-home test.
Obviously, if he's getting symptoms, it'll take more than just this morning to catch in. So, well, and that's what actually one thing that fears me in these next coming days as well is they're traveling to 4 cities in 10 games.
When we haven't really left Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So that just broke. Corey Simon released the article, so I thought it.
Well, here I was joking about injury-prone Roman Quinn, and it's this. It is insane. I will. So I don't know if you guys get these texts or not from your employers, but every day we have to respond to the same test that has if you've coughed in the last 17 years, if you've had an ache one time. If you sneeze too hard and you think you dislocated a rib, you have COVID. So it is very specific. And for those like Tuukka Rask initially, he wasn't feeling great one day. So he responded to this chat. So hopefully this is just a standard kind of a cold symptom for Roman Quinn. And he's fine. And we don't have to worry about anything like that. But that's something we'll monitor too. Corey Simon, by the way, awesome follow on Twitter. Good dude. back to positive-ish things. The game 2 of this series, the 7 from Nola was excellent. 8 strikeouts, just the 3 hits and 2 walks given up. The offense really only came in that 5th inning. Aside from that, it was a really slow game, honestly, on both sides there. I think for me, the biggest thing that kind of came from this one was the final 2 innings there from Rosso, with whom I still don't understand how he's a major league pitcher, but people seem to be high on him. Just goes to show you that you can do absolutely everything fucking wrong, but if you can throw hard enough, someone will take a shot on you. But he looks like a train wreck on the mound. But he got through 2 innings, gave up 2 runs, but he got through 2 innings. There wasn't a whole hell of a lot outside of Nola to talk about on this game. Borek, did you have anything on game 2 of this series that kind of stood out to you, offensively, defensively, or anything?
Well, with Rosso, I mean, he didn't look great that outing, but in the middle 2 outings, he looked bad his first outing, looked great against the Braves and Baltimore. He's really the only guy that pitched worth a damn in that Baltimore series. And then he sucked in this game in the 2nd inning. He looked okay in the 1st inning, then we left him out for the 2nd. And I do like how Girardi didn't pull him, because I thought instinctually he was just going to pull a young kid after he gave up a homer. I think that's a good mindset thing. So I do think he's still okay. I think it was just one bad outing. I actually think he's a pretty good pitcher because he responded back, and then he had another bad outing, so we'll see how he responds back again. You're just going to naturally have a shitty ERA this year if you had a first bad outing. Usually you bring an ERA down over a course of a month. Over a course of a month is basically almost the end of the season this year. So that's you're going to have guys that actually had pretty good stats in the second half of a 30-game clip that have like a 4 ERA, but they have probably a 2 ERA in the 30 games. So I think if he can keep doing what he did the other 2 outings in the 1st inning, Connor Brogdon can kind of bounce back like he did. That'll also add to our bullpen, along with sweating like a wave in the ocean, Blake Parker, who looks pretty good since he got called up.
Blake freaking Parker. It's amazing that a name like that and a pitcher like that is at this point, brought up and immediately a top 2 or 3 option for us that you have to have more confidence in than the rest of your people. That's absolutely ridiculous to me. But here we are in Philadelphia, and that is our bullpen. But then we get to the closing of the series today. We had the opportunity to sweep the Mets. We throw out their former pitcher in Zach Wheeler out there, and he looked really, really good. This is probably the hardest that he's throwing all year. It looked like he had the extra bit there, which is good. Now that he's gotten a few starts under his belt, it looks like he's starting to kind of resemble a little bit of that second half pitcher that we've come to know, facing him so many times. So really, really good run on that fastball, and then just really commanded the secondary stuff well down on the zone, and forced, like I said earlier in the pod, a lot of ground ball outs. I think it's 28 ground ball outs in his last 3 starts. And that's huge. Anytime you could do that, I know 2 starts ago, I think he had 3 double play balls or 4 double play balls, something like that. If you can do that, you're managing your pitch count, you're an efficient guy, and it keeps you in these games longer, which with our bullpen we need. But the offense today spread out hits throughout the day, did most of their damage in just that 6th and 7th inning. Biscuit, you kind of spoke about it a little earlier, with Alec Boehm kind of being the bat to sit there and take one the opposite way on the outer part of the plate. And yeah, as you're dancing on monitor right now, what did you kind of see from the offense there in that 6th and 7th inning?
I saw what I've been wanting to see for like the last, year and a half with this team. I want to see them come from behind and get that little motivation and, put the game away. I feel like even when, they tie the game or they take that 1-run lead, it doesn't feel safe. What they did today, getting the 4 additional runs and kind of putting the game really not out of reach, but enough to the point where they'd have to really screw up to let this game get away from them, just with the great start by Wheeler going 7 full innings and then just having to turn it over to the bullpen to close it out. But it's great to just finally see the fight. And they were down early. They were only down by the 1 run, but you really didn't feel like we were out of it at any point. I think my only concern was that, this team was going to really live or die by, because they really do kind of live or die by the long ball, that with the wind blowing in And, you saw the big hit by Bryce where it could have went out, and probably on a less windy day it would have went out, but the wind was blowing in, so it kept it in the yard. I thought hits like that were going to kind of screw the Phillies over and kind of take away their chances to really not have any momentum. But to really kind of settle in, you had the big hit by Alec Boehm to tie the game. Then Kutch comes into the game, and Kutch finally, it's so refreshing. And you brought it up, Andrew, with his little signal to Boehm. You knew it was coming. He was all over it. It's great to finally see it.
It is, man. Up and down the lineup today, we saw some really encouraging things from some guys whom we needed to see it from, and then we saw from some guys that we've been seeing it from. Segura early on in that first inning, this is, I think, his third or fourth hit to the opposite field gap in the last few days. That's about all the positive things I'll ever have to say on Gene Segura, but I have to acknowledge it because we're a Phillies podcast. Gene Segura, future IL candidate, by the way. Hoskins, his average is up to 208.
Turn the corner.
I don't really know what I can say positively, but he got a hit today. So, look, Hoskins is what Hoskins is. I think he's just, at this point, he's a guy who is more interested in working pitchers, and getting two-strike defensive-minded hits than he is being that aggressive middle-of-the-order bat.
424 on base percentage.
Which is a tough pill to swallow, but if he's going to be there, and he's going to get on base, he's going to give the Harpers and the JTs the opportunity to drive him in. So is he perfect in that matter? Absolutely not. Would you want more from a first baseman? Yeah, you absolutely would. Would you want more from a guy who came up and hit 48 home runs in 3 days in 16 or 17? Yeah, of fucking course. I would love that back. But at this point, it doesn't seem like he has any interest in that aspect of his game. So you got to take with what you can. So he gets on base, and he provides some opportunity for the other guys. Harper with another 2 hits today. Was huge, as you guys mentioned. That ball that honestly is probably normally either off that brick wall and damn near over if the wind's the opposite direction. But he is just an absolute stud. JT with another 3 hits today. Gregorius still hanging around 300. Boehm gets 2 hits. The big, kind of game-changing hit the opposite way. Bruce is being Bruce. He's back down to 227. That's where I want Bruce. That means home runs are coming. That's exactly what that is. A DH right there. That is your middle of the lineup bat. If you want him to hit 225 and Adam Dunn himself and just hit 40 home runs for you, fucking let it happen. That's your DH.
Right on.
If I was running the team. Andrew Knapp, for all the Andrew Knapp lovers, looking at the bottom of my screen right now, Sean, with a big 0 for 4 today, but called a really good game and really just was, all day he and Willer were on the same page, and that made a huge difference. And then I think the most positive thing for me on the day was the fact that Kingery was on base twice. Has it looked pretty? Absolutely fucking not. His 128 average. My God, you guys hitting 128 in the major fucking leagues. But 2 for 4 today. It's a step in the right direction. Get yourself on base. You never know what it does for your confidence. So in terms of that offense today, we put together 14 hits, which is a really, really good thing, and 6 runs. And as Biscuit mentioned earlier, 6 runs. When early on in that game, it didn't feel great. It felt lethargic. And while we didn't feel out of it, we always feel a little out of it with a lead, or when we're down. So it was really good to see and really good to come back after just 5 miserable days of baseball before that. So which is really good. But let's go on to some of the IL news that we have this week. Hazley is on the IL, which is, I don't get it. I don't understand how he's on the IL. Does anyone know how it happened? What happened?
No, I got no idea, honestly.
Okay, good. I don't know if he has just said some shit to Girardi that made Girardi suddenly not a nice guy, but Girardi seems to not enjoy him. Playing Roman Quinn consistently over him is a fucking nightmare. I never want to see Roman Quinn in a lineup ever. I just want to see him steal a base in the 7th or 8th inning and just see what the fuck happens. But other than that, I don't even want to bring a water to someone. Like, just let him, just sit your ass in the corner and we'll call you when we need you. But Hazley on the IL, to me, he was one of the most actively producing offensive pieces that we had when he was in there. Have not loved where he has been hitting. Only one day did he hit in the top of the order. Outside of that, he's been hitting 7, 8, or 9. What are you expecting from Hazley when he comes back, and what are you expecting by the way that Girardi ends up using him, Borek?
Hazley, I mean, I don't know how he got injured either. I guess it was pinch hitting. I don't know what the hell he did. I don't remember him making a play. He would have got injured. But I think he should use him more because he's the guy. I was telling Andrew about this. He actually makes the jumps. Normally, the guy you want in center field is the guy that reads the ball at least the best or almost even with the best in your outfield, which that is not Roman Quinn. So that's why I would put Hazley in center field. That's the reason why everyone loved Victorino in center field. At first, when you put him in there, he used his speed. But once he became a great fielder, he was a great fielder. And you're not going to let Hazley become a great fielder if you keep bringing him in and out of the lineup. And he's also not going to stay consistent as hitting if you keep bringing him in and out of the lineup. He started good. When he comes back, you're going to want to put him in there consistently because he's also going to be out for at least 10 days. So that's even more why if I'm Joe Girardi, I would want to put him in because you want to keep his bat going like it was to start the season as well as his defense. So I would say he should be our starting center fielder unless if Scott Kingery keeps going 2 for 4 in all these games up until Adam Hazley comes back.
Kingery's a nice center field. Honestly, he plays a really nice center field. He plays defensively well everywhere on the diamond. So he's an interesting piece if the offense ever gets there. Not confident in that at this point. But Segura looks like a likely IL candidate after his triple early on to start the game. We see him come up kind of lame, limping a little bit there. And then later in the game, looking to beat out a single. I don't know if it was an infield single or what, but he comes off the field then as well. I don't understand how he is today moved into the leadoff spot, but he has been a 5th hitter and sometimes 6th hitter for this lineup. When I saw Bohm in the 8th spot, a guy who you should be counting on producing at least some power and extra base hits, and certainly for a higher average than that of Gene fucking Segura. What is it that Gene has with Girardi? Can anyone explain to me what Girardi sees in him? And outside of hoping to God he gets hot and we can flip him for something, why the fuck is he in the lineup? You're shaking your head over there, Sean. What do you got?
I've said it since the first couple of games. There's no reason for him to be 5th and 6th, and I've tweeted it out a couple of times. I don't know what Girardi sees in him that he sees a guy that can drive in these hot hitters that are getting on base. This is a guy that seems to be trying to swing for the fences when he should just be poking singles and batting 300. And to me, I'd put him at the bottom of the lineup, even though he is starting to look like he's getting hot. It doesn't make sense. Girardi hasn't absolutely impressed me this season, and I mean Segura. If he does end up going to the IL, it would be nice if the Phillies had kept somebody that could play middle infield that should have made
Walker.
The roster coming into the season.
Talk about Josh Harrison.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
that
think
one
Josh
hurt
wanted to be here.
It was so that it's when we originally had signed him to, I believe it was a minor league deal or whatever it was. It was exciting, and you thought you could get a guy that can start a couple games, a utility guy for the infield, and now that we're going to probably lose Segura, it sucks. I don't know who they plan on playing at second base, but
Barrels.
I don't know how well. Honestly, he's not a starting he just is not a starting caliber player. He's hot as hell, and you got to ride it out. But
hey, he made that jump throw.
Sure, fake cheating. But I have not been impressed with Girardi so far this year either. For what that is worth. There we go. Biscuit, you had your hand going there. What did you have to add on that?
It's a tale of two cities with Gene Segura. I'm not it's been frustrating to watch him. And I think in hindsight, it's very easy to sit here and say that if we could go back and redo the trade, sending J.P. Crawford and Santana to the Mariners in exchange for him, that we wouldn't have done it. But at the same time, I do think Segura still has something to add. But with that being said, you're not going to get that Gene Segura that you need when he's batting in the 5th or 6th spot. And that's where I agree with you, Sean. He's not a middle of the lineup bat. He should be batting where, he was at the beginning of last year in the 2-hole, or he should be a little bit lower in the lineup to kind of get that, contact and get that little bloop single to kind of keep the line moving and shuffling it along. The bat has started to look better. You can't deny that. I think getting him out of the middle of the order is going to be really good for him. And you kind of it's one thing if this was a couple of days ago when he looked absolutely putrid and he went down with an injury and you say okay, fuck it. It couldn't be any worse than what it is now. But the fact that the bat is starting to kind of produce a little bit more and come around, it's concerning, especially when you already lost Hazley. You don't know when we're going to get Roman Quinn back. Jay Bruce now might be gone. So that's, 4 guys that you use, consistently every other night that could be MIA. And it's just, it's a fine line I walk with Gene Segura. I'm intrigued because I'm intrigued because I do think he has something to offer. And I thought he's played a very well second base so far as well, I might add. But like I said, it goes back to Girardi using him in that middle of the lineup. I don't get it. Having Bowman in the 8-hole and him in the middle of the lineup, It just to flip him.
That's it.
It doesn't make sense. It's just odd. And it's not that I'm not impressed by what Girardi's doing or some of the choices he'd made. I'm just confused. But what it really reinforces to me is that this team's issues weren't ever because of a manager. It was never a manager's fault.
And
it was
Gabe
something
we trust.
In Gabe we trust. And you know what? Fuck it. I still have trust in Gabe. Not that I wouldn't have Girardi or would have wanted it differently, but the fact of the matter is this team's issues clearly have carried over into this season as well, and it's not a manager's fault, and everyone needs to understand that now.
I was just curious. I was going to say what you guys thought of him leading off then, since he wasn't at the bottom of the lineup.
I don't ever want him leading off
second, but he was not usually a leadoff hitter. So.
See, I was fine with it because, today at least, because there's no one else to lead off today. You gave McCutchen the day off. I think it was really just process of elimination. You were going to go with Segura today with Kingery struggles. I think that's the other thing is I think they were in a situation where they were either going to bench Segura or Kingery, and obviously before today, Kingery was below 100. So by process of elimination, again, Segura won the battle of 2 bad players. So I think he kind of got lucky in that sense where he was able to continue playing because there's another guy struggling worse than he was. And then fortunate enough for him, his bats kind of turned around this week. He had 3 home runs this week in the last 7 games, so he kind of turned it around there. And again, for today, it was fine. I think it's hard to say keep McCutchen there because McCutchen's batting 192. So I think with the lineup set here, I think I'm okay with Segura leading off because just by process of elimination, there's no one else really to go there.
Please tell me you're raising your hand because you want Bryson Stott to get called up and you want him to lead off.
I was, I wasn't even thinking that, but God damn it, that sounds like a great idea. I mean, you're looking at a team right now that doesn't have a leadoff hitter. I mean, yes, the appeal of Kutch batting leadoff last season was that he was getting on base at a 400 average. He was getting on base, he was producing, he was smacking the ball over the field, and he had some sneaky power. We have not seen that Kutch so far this year, and maybe it's the fact that he was hitting in Jay Bruce's spot today that all of a sudden he crushed a home run. Maybe it was just a bad pitch, but maybe with the injury and because he doesn't look like the normal McCutchen, if he should be moved out of the leadoff spot. The problem with that is there's nobody to go there, and especially with Hazley going down, who seemed like he could hold his own in that leadoff spot. Segura is not a leadoff hitter. And you look through the rest of the lineup, there's nobody that can be that guy that can lead off your lineup
at this point.
If he's going to get on base at a over 420 mark, then yeah. But I mean, you don't want your leadoff hitter batting whatever 210. I mean, if the power is
getting off base 45% of the time,
right? But I mean, maybe. But if he's not, a speed guy either.
At all.
I think that's why they have him in the 2-hole, because there's a chance that he can still slap the ball and
Can we just
drive
talk
in
about
whoever gets
that
in
for
front
a
of him.
second? Mr. I'm only going to pull a baseball, and I've never taken one the other way in my entire fucking life. The traditional thing that makes a 2-hole hitter that much more valuable is to create first and thirds by going the other way, giving your guy a shot. Why the fuck is he a 2-hole hitter? I have never fucking understood this. Absolutely blows my mind. I fucking hate it. Everyone
Gene
thinks
there.
that's a good idea. Gene's fine.
Then we have to
If we're
lead
gonna
off
put him
Reese.
there, I'd rather him in the 8 spot until he really gets himself going. But I would be cool with him in the 2. I do agree. Process of elimination, probably the way to go today. I hope it's not the way that we go consistently, ever. Don't ever need to see that. But mercifully, we get a day off tomorrow, so we get to enjoy a sweep without getting pissed off. So it's 48 full hours that we get to be happy as Philly fans.
Well,
Phillies
wait.
fans.
We should be happier longer because the Red Sox have dog trash pitching both stores.
I just need you to know who we have lost 5 of 6 games to this
I'm
year. Does
just
anyone want to tell him?
saying.
I'm just
No,
curious.
because we're not.
They have
supposed
better
to talk
pitching.
about it.
They have better pitching though.
This is the positive podcast.
They have better.
That's right. Positive podcast. We're done.
Trust me.
We're out on that. So we get Boston coming up. We get Boston. I believe we have Arrieta and Eflin, right? Is that who's throwing in that series?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel pretty good about that, which is strange to say because I notoriously loathe Eflin and I've notoriously been underwhelmed by Jake Arrieta. But at this point, pretty cool with it, especially when you see who they're going up against. Borek, you are correct. Both pitches are horrendous. But we don't hit bad pitching. We don't hit good pitching either a lot of the time. So we'll see how this all rolls. But we got a 2-game series against Boston before we see the Blue Jays, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
for a doubleheader
right?
on Thursday.
Yeah, it's
That's what I
Red,
thought.
It's Red Sox 2, Blue Jays 2, and then Braves 3 next weekend.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a hell of a lot of wins for us. While we're on the topic of wins, we got 2 other teams in the city right now actively. One going into a playoff series tomorrow night in the 76ers, and another one tied and game 3 going on in a little over 2 hours now on the Flyers. Andrew, you are our go-to 76ers guy, and we would be remiss if we didn't show the love to some of the other teams in this city. 76ers see Boston. Boston notoriously just really, really ruins our playoff lives since 2012, really, 2010 maybe. How are we looking for the 76ers? You feeling good about the often injured Joel Embiid and no traditional lineup?
It's going to be an interesting series. Overall, I think they can hang with them. I think they match up well overall. Even without Simmons, I think Embiid's going to create so many problems down low for Boston. They really don't have anyone to cover him. Yeah, they got Canner, but overall, he's not big of a threat to me anymore. Embiid should have no problem there. I even take Horford over him, Canner, when Horford comes in for Embiid. It's gonna be interesting to see what kind of lineup Brown runs out there, but I'm excited to see what they got. Obviously, you lose Simmons and you lose Glenn Robinson for the series, so gonna rely heavily on Burks. But I like the way they played. Some of these guys were shooting on the return, so I think if Burks can continue to do what he was doing off the bench, Harrison's been playing, or Tobias Harris has played unbelievable since the restart. I like the Sixers' chances in the series, honestly.
I love the positivity, man. So I don't think any team in this city makes me more angry than the 76ers. Like the Phillies, someone turned your goddamn phone off. Who is it?
That is me. That was my mom
playing around. Oh man, tell her I said what's up. No, I take a look at the 76ers team, and like I said, they bring out a level of emotion. Like the Phillies bring me to a 9.5. The 76ers bring me to like a 14 on the anger scale. I don't know what it is. I think it's because in basketball you can be up 58 points with 37 seconds left and lose. It's fucking maddening. So I am a mess to watch 76ers games with. So Andrew, good luck in the group text with me and Scott. That's going to be a fucking nightmare for you.
It's going to be fun. I mean,
it'll be good. I'm excited that we're about to see some NBA playoffs because it's really the only time the NBA matters.
Plus that most of the 8-game stretch in the rebuild, it was just like, can we just get to the playoffs? Like those 8 games just drug out so bad.
In traditional NBA fashion. It's ridiculous. A 7-game series could last like a month and a half. 3 days off in between for travel. It's a nightmare. But as I mentioned, in a little over 2 hours, we have the Flyers coming back for Game 3 after honestly a pretty pitiful 6 periods of hockey from them. They're lucky to be tied in this series right now. Our one-seeded Flyers and our go-to Flyers guy and Flyers writer, Joe Borek. Joe, how are we feeling about tonight's game? We feeling good?
Yeah, well, I think the Flyers, I think the Canadians got a boost from their head coach having his health scare. That's going to boost the team momentum-wise, no matter what, to play for your head coach for that game. The Flyers have that same exact boost this game because Oscar had his first skate with the team this morning. They did the stick taps in the middle of the ice, which, like Jason Martinez said, it looked like TK was in that shot. So if that's the case,
Looked like TK?
Well,
TK looked like he was murdering the ice.
Well, you couldn't. No, it was like
TK
you couldn't
Thor?
tell from that picture. But anyway, the point is that would spell success to he's probably going to be able to play tonight. One would think after that ugly play the other day, but and Raffle could be back. So I do like our lineup on the defensive side tonight more than I did in other game. And I would be shocked if Robert Hagg's not in to supply more physicality because you need to supply more physicality against the Canadians. But
It
if
wouldn't
we
shock me if Haig plays over Braun and we keep Ghost and slide Ghost to the power play, which would be welcomed, I suppose. I'm still not a fan.
That wouldn't shock me either because Braun played the least minutes game 1 and kind of played a decent amount game 2, but didn't play well. So, but AV, I mean, I just believe in his thing because when he said some of the quotes I tweeted out, like about how he's always believed that there's the ways to win, and this team does it all the different ways. They figure out one game they do it more skill, like they did in the round robin. They do it more in front of the net, which is what we have to show this game. That's what you have to show against the Canadians, and I think that's what we're going to show tonight. So I think we'll be more physical, establish ourselves in front of the net, because Carey Price can stop anything if he can see. So you have to establish yourself in front of the net, and I think that's why we'll win tonight.
All right, so we think the Flyers take a 2-1 lead, we hope, here at the CTP podcast, and we're excited and optimistic about our 76ers going up against Boston in round 1 here. So with that, let's go to some final thoughts real quick. On Phillies or anything at this point. And Andrew, since your face has been frozen and knocked away for quite a little bit on my screen, I'm going to go to you first. Go ahead.
I just say it's going to be interesting to see what the Phillies do in the next coming days, depending on who makes the IL stint. And I'm curious what they'll do with the lineup just because there's so many. They could see 4 or 5 guys hit the IL in the next couple days, depending on how serious it is. They said post-game Segura was a hamstring and Bruce was a quad injury, and then who knows with what Spencer Howard, how bad that might be, and then obviously Quinn and Hazley are done. So it's going to be interesting to see, and they just optioned JoJo Romero down to AAA again. So I think they're expecting a couple different moves tomorrow as well. So I'm interested to see what they do with
Bryson Stott. That's my final thought.
Bryson Stott tomorrow.
That's it. That's what I want. Well, in 2 days, yeah.
But
all right, Borek, your final thoughts there.
Yeah, the two-headed monster, Rob. I mean, I had confidence in Nola. Rob just had the utmost confidence. They're doing good, and Wheeler's doing good. I love it. Right now, they probably would be top 5. My predictions. And right now, Jake Arrieta could be 18th through 20th. So my prediction's looking pretty good in our Cy Young poll right now.
Biscuit just waving you off.
Hey.
Not too high on Jake yet. I need a few more good Jake starts.
Well, Biscuit, you were never too high on Jake.
Well, yeah, because the guy's an asshole. He hasn't pitched well in like 3 years, and he said he was going to dent someone's skull. He doesn't really seem like a likable person, you know?
Well, I could care less about that. As long as his sinker looks good, he's locating it and pitching well. I don't care if
he doesn't throw hard enough to dent anybody's skull.
As long as you're pitching well and you pitch to a good ERA, you could be the biggest asshole on the team for all I care. Just pitch well for me.
Pedro Martinez.
Yeah.
All right, Biscuit, on that note, what is your final thought?
There's a man named Jacob Tyler Romuto, born on, where's his birthday? I can't find it, but he was born one day. But, 8 home runs, a slugging percentage 4 points shy of 700, an OPS well over 1,000. Some may call him the best catcher in baseball.
Some might.
I call him Jesus Christ. But one thing that you might want to know about JT is that he's hitting the free agency this offseason. And the Phillies should sign him to a multi-year contract, well exceeding $120 million, because he is the best at his position. He is probably going to be a Hall of Fame catcher. And he, outside of Bryce Harper, and you can make the case for Didi Gregorius as well, he's been the best hitter on this team. And I think he's really coming into his own as he was always a good bat, but now I think he's more and more of a threat bat. And I know everyone was very skeptical about him being in the 4-hole at first, but I really like what he's done in the position so far. Obviously, he was never really much of an on-base guy, and his average isn't going to be the sexiest, probably in the 270s or 280s. But the power being there, he's been unreal, and definitely, in my opinion, one of the best hitters on this team so far to start the year. So sign him, please.
Sign him. All right, and then our last final thought over here, and Sean, your final thought.
It blows my mind that Bryce Harper is still underrated, even though every other 29 teams in the MLB, they all think he's overrated. Before, I believe it was 2 games ago, led the entire major leagues in OPS. And Aaron Nola deserves the Cy Young. I mean, you got a Cy Young Award candidate and an MVP candidate, 2 MVP candidates if you count Realmuto on this team, and we're still negative. So there's reasons to be hopeful for the future. There's reason to think that this team can easily turn it around. A couple balls fall in different areas, and we're in a playoff spot right now. So there's still, believe it or not, although we've passed the quarter mark of the season, there are still a lot of games to be played. And, to close off the positive podcast, I'm very optimistic about this Phillies team.
All right. So I have a couple final thoughts here. One is I completely forgot one of our main topics for today. Sean, I apologize. But for all of our listeners and for you guys, think on this. If you had to make one of the 2 decisions and only one of the 2 in this offseason, are you signing JT Realmuto, or are you signing 2 can't-miss bullpen pieces? Think on that. We're going to talk on that on Tuesday. I don't even know that we'll have a baseball game to cover by Tuesday. We might be recording during the game at that point. But my other final thought, as always, is visit Just Food. Number there is 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Visit our guy Asian Rob. Tell him to put anything in a box. Walk away, and I promise whatever it is, you're going to like it. I don't eat anything green. He puts green shit in boxes, and I fucking love it because everything they make is wonderful. So visit them over there at Just Food. One place is in Buckingham Green Shopping Center. It's just above Peddler's Village, if you guys are familiar with that area in Bucks County. And the other is at the Del Val College Mart. That's their main kitchen back there. And then, if you want to hire them for any of your special events, things like weddings, request me, and I'll bartend your event. So it's 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. All right. We're going to send this one off over to the Jackdaws, and we will see you guys on Tuesday.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.